Commander Hyunwoo stood at the big window on the space station. His tall body was covered in dark green scales that caught the light from the two suns outside. His eyes were different from human eyes. They were long and thin like a cat's eyes, but much bigger. Right now, those eyes looked very worried as he stared down at the human town below. 3 weeks had passed since the babies went missing. Not human babies, but his people's babies. The Kalari babies were very special. They had white skin that you could see through like glass. Their people called them Albino Hatchlings. These 3 little ones were the last hope for his dying race. Hyunwoo's home planet was very sick. A terrible disease had killed most of the children before they could grow up. His people were running out of time. Soon there would be no more Kalari babies born at all. That's why these 3 white babies were so important. They carried special blood that might save everyone. The space station floated high above a planet called Kepler 442c. It was a world where humans had built a new town. The humans and Kalari worked together here. They shared their knowledge and tried to help each other. Hyunwoo had hoped that working with humans would help them find answers. What he didn't expect was how kind the humans would be. Dr. Jamin walked over to Hyunwoo. He was a human scientist who studied alien life. His hair was gray and his face had lines from years of hard work. In his hand, he carried a small device that beeped and showed numbers on a screen. "Still nothing on the scanners," Jamin said. His voice sounded tired and sad. "The baby creatures should show up as heat spots on this machine, but it's like they just disappeared into the air." Hyunwoo's throat made a soft fluttering sound. It was the way his people showed they were upset or scared. Jamin had learned to understand these sounds over the many months they had worked together. The human doctor was very good at reading alien body language. "Maybe they found a safe place to hide that is too far away for our machines to find," Hyunwoo said. But even as he spoke the words, he didn't really believe them. The babies were only 3 months old. Their white skin was very thin and weak. The suns on this planet gave off strong light that could hurt them badly. Without help, they would die in just a few days. Through the window, Hyunwoo could see the human town spread out like a green carpet across the valley. The buildings were not straight and perfect like Kalari buildings. Instead, they curved and bent to fit the land around them. There were gardens growing between the houses. Human children ran and played in open spaces. The whole place felt alive and warm. This was very different from Kalari cities. Kalari buildings were white and clean with straight lines and empty spaces. Everything had its place and purpose. But human towns seemed to grow wild like plants. They changed and adapted to whatever they needed to be. Hyunwoo found this both strange and wonderful. His people were very careful and planned everything. But humans seemed to make things up as they went along. Yet somehow it worked. The human town below looked happy and peaceful. "Tell me again about the night they disappeared," Jamin said. He had asked this question many times, but he always hoped to hear something new. Something that might help them find the missing babies. Hyunwoo closed his big eyes and remembered. "I was doing my evening check on the nursery habitat. This is something I do every night before sleep time. The 3 albino hatchlings were in their special beds. The beds keep them warm and safe. The room was the right temperature. The lights were dim the way they like." He paused and his throat fluttered again. "When I came back in the morning, they were gone. The beds were empty. The door to their room was still locked. The windows were too small for them to climb through. It was like they just vanished." Jamin nodded. They had been through this story dozens of times. The security cameras showed nothing. The door locks had not been broken. There were no signs of a fight or struggle. The babies had simply disappeared from a locked room. Could they have opened the door themselves? Jamin asked. "Impossible," Hyunwoo said. "They are too young. Their hands are too small and weak. The lock needs a special code that only adults know." The 2 friends stood quietly for a while. Outside the window, the human town was getting ready for evening. Lights were turning on in the houses. Smoke rose from cooking fires. It looked like a normal, peaceful day. But somewhere out there, 3 baby aliens were lost and probably dying. "There is something else," Hyunwoo said slowly. "Something I have not told the search teams." Jamin turned to look at his alien friend. "What is it?" "The hatchlings were acting strange for several days before they disappeared. They were not eating well. They seemed restless and unhappy. At night I could hear them making soft crying sounds." "Why didn't you mention this before?" Hyunwoo's scales changed color slightly. This was how his people showed embarrassment. "I thought it was normal. Young Kalari sometimes get upset when they are away from their birth planet. I believed they would get better with time. Jamin thought about this new information. What if they weren't sick? What if they were trying to tell you something? What if they needed something that the nursery habitat couldn't give them? What do you mean? Think about it. Your people evolved on a different world. Maybe the babies knew something by instinct that we didn't understand. Maybe they were looking for something specific. Hyunwoo considered this idea. It was true that Kalari babies were born with strong instincts. They knew how to find food and shelter even before they could walk properly. Their survival instincts were very powerful. You think they left the nursery on purpose? Hyunwoo asked. I think it's possible. And if they did leave on purpose, then maybe they found what they were looking for. Maybe they're not lost. Maybe they're hiding somewhere that feels right to them. This thought gave Hyunwoo the first hope he had felt in weeks. If the babies were hiding by choice, then they might still be alive. They might be smart enough to take care of themselves until help arrived. We need to change our search pattern, Jamin said. Instead of looking for lost babies, we should look for babies who chose to hide. We need to think like them and figure out where they would want to go. As night fell over the planet, the two scientists began making new plans. Somewhere in the darkness, 3 white baby aliens were either dying or surviving. Tomorrow they would find out which one was true. Young Mira was 12 years old and very different from other kids in New Busan Colony. While her friends played video games and sports, she liked to explore the caves in the hills around their town. Her parents worked as engineers who helped make the planet better for humans to live on. They worried about their daughter spending so much time alone. Dr. Jamin had told her parents not to worry. He said Mira was very smart about alien life. She knew more about the creatures on their planet than most adults. Her curiosity about different species was amazing for someone so young. On this morning, Mira was exploring deeper into her favorite cave system than she had ever gone before. She had been coming to these caves for 2 years. She knew every tunnel and chamber like they were rooms in her house. But today she heard something new. Soft chirping sounds echoed from the deepest part of the cave. The sounds were musical and beautiful. They reminded Mira of birds singing, but these were not bird sounds. She had memorized all the animal sounds on their planet. This was something completely different. Mira followed the sounds deeper into the cave. She used her small flashlight to see the rocky walls around her. The tunnel got smaller as she went deeper. Soon she had to crawl on her hands and knees to keep going. But the beautiful singing sounds got louder. Finally, she reached a big round chamber deep inside the mountain. Her flashlight beam swept across the space and then stopped. Her mouth fell open in surprise. There in the middle of the chamber were 3 small creatures unlike anything she had ever seen. They were tiny. Each one was about the size of a small cat. Their skin was pure white and so thin that Mira could see their blood moving underneath. Their eyes were huge and dark like black marbles. Their little hands had long, thin fingers that looked very delicate. The creatures were sitting on a bed made of soft moss and dry leaves. Someone had carefully arranged the moss to make it comfortable. The leaves were placed just right to keep them warm. But who could have done this? No humans lived this deep in the caves. When Mira's light hit them, the 3 creatures looked up at her. They did not run away or seem scared. Instead, they watched her with what looked like hope in their big dark eyes. Their tiny hands reached toward her like babies reaching for their mother. Mira had studied enough alien biology to know what these were. They were Kalari babies. She had seen pictures of adult Kalari at the space station. But these were different. They were white instead of green. Their skin was see-through instead of thick scales. These must be the missing albino hatchlings everyone was looking for. For 3 weeks, the whole colony had heard about the search. The alien commander was very upset. The human scientists were worried. Everyone thought the babies were dead. But here they were alive and safe in a cave. How had they gotten here? How had they survived for so long? Who had made the comfortable bed for them? Mira sat down slowly on the cave floor. She did not want to scare the little creatures. She held out her hand the way her father had taught her to approach wild animals. Be calm and gentle and let them come to you. The smallest baby creature moved first. It crawled across the moss bed and climbed into Mira's open hand. It was so light she could barely feel its weight. Its skin was warm and soft like silk. The tiny creature curled up in her palm and made happy chirping sounds. The other 2 babies saw that Mira was safe and friendly. They crawled over to her too. Soon all 3 were climbing on her arms and shoulders. They seemed to like being close to her. Their chirping sounds became softer and more content. Mira sat very still and let the babies explore. They touched her hair with their tiny fingers. They looked at her face with their big eyes. They seemed curious about this strange new creature who had found them. As she sat there, Mira began to understand something important. These babies had not gotten lost by accident. They had left the space station on purpose. They were looking for something. And somehow they had found exactly what they needed in this cave. The cave was warm because it was deep underground. The temperature never changed no matter what the weather was like outside. It was dark, which seemed to make the babies feel safe. It was quiet and peaceful with no scary machines or bright lights. Someone had been taking care of them. The moss bed was fresh and clean. There were drops of water collected in small stone cups. Pieces of food were scattered around the moss. Simple food like berries and roots that the babies could eat, but who had been helping them? Mira looked around the chamber again with her flashlight. In one corner, she saw more clues. There were small footprints in the soft dirt. Human footprints, but smaller than adult feet. Child footprints. Another kid had been coming here. Another kid had found the babies first and had been taking care of them. But who was it? Mira knew all the children in the colony. She could not think of anyone else who liked exploring caves as much as she did. The babies were getting sleepy. They curled up against Mira's warm body and closed their big eyes. Their breathing became slow and peaceful. For the first time in weeks, they felt completely safe. Mira made a decision. She would not tell the adults about finding the babies right away. First, she wanted to understand how they had survived. She wanted to meet the other child who had been helping them. She wanted to learn more about what these little creatures really needed. She carefully moved the babies back to their moss bed. They did not want to let go of her. They made sad little crying sounds when she tried to leave, so Mira promised she would come back soon. "I will bring you better food," she whispered to them, "and warmer blankets, and I will stay with you longer next time." The babies seemed to understand her even though she was speaking human words. They settled down on their moss bed and watched her with trusting eyes as she crawled back through the tunnel toward the outside world. Mira had a secret now. A wonderful, amazing secret that could change everything. Dr. Jamin was working in his lab when the emergency alarm started ringing. The sound was loud and urgent. It meant something very important had happened. He dropped his research papers and ran to his computer screen to read the message. The words on the screen made his heart beat faster. Heat signatures matching the missing hatchlings detected in cave system northwest of colony. Search team mobilizing immediately. Commander Hyunwoo leading expedition. Jamin grabbed his equipment bag and ran toward the landing pad. Other scientists and search team members were already gathering there. Everyone looked excited and worried at the same time. After 3 weeks of searching, they finally had a real clue. Commander Hyunwoo was standing near the transport vehicle. His green scales were flashing different colors as his emotions changed quickly. Jamin had learned that when Kalari were very upset or excited, their skin showed bright patterns. Right now, Hyunwoo looked like a living rainbow. The thermal scanners picked up 3 small heat sources in the deep caves, Hyunwoo explained to the search team. The size and temperature match exactly what we would expect from albino hatchlings. But there is something strange. "What kind of strange?" asked Captain Minho, who led the human security team. "The readings show the hatchlings have been in the same location for several hours. They are not moving around like lost or scared babies would. They seem to be resting peacefully in one place." Jamin thought about this information. That could mean they found a safe shelter. Or it could mean they are too weak to move anymore. "There is something else," Hyunwoo continued. The scanners also detected a 4th heat signature. Larger than the hatchlings, but smaller than an adult. The computer thinks it might be a human child. This news surprised everyone. What would a human child be doing in the deep caves? And why would they be near the missing alien babies? Some of the adults looked worried. They wondered if the child might be in danger. But Jamin had a different thought. What if the child is not in danger? What if the child is helping the hatchlings? That would explain why the babies are staying in one place and seem calm. The journey to the caves took 2 hours. The transport vehicle carried both human and Kalari team members. Everyone was quiet during the trip. They were all thinking about what they might find. Commander Hyunwoo stared out the window at the rocky hills where the caves were hidden. His people had evolved on a world where big, dangerous animals often ate their babies. His first instinct was to fear the worst. But Jamin had asked him to think differently. If a human child wanted to hurt the hatchlings, they would already be dead, Jamin had said. The babies are still alive after 3 weeks. That means someone has been taking care of them. When they reached the cave entrance, the team set up their equipment. The portable scanners confirmed what they had seen from the space station. 3 small heat sources deep inside the mountain, 1 larger source very close to them. All 4 signatures were strong and steady. The cave system goes very deep, reported Sung Min, the team geologist. There are many tunnels and chambers. It will take time to reach the location where the scanners detected the heat sources. The team prepared for a long climb down into the mountain. They carried lights and communication equipment and emergency medical supplies. If the hatchlings were hurt or sick, they needed to be ready to help them quickly. As they moved deeper into the caves, the tunnels became smaller and darker. The rock walls were smooth from thousands of years of water flowing through them. Strange formations hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls made of stone. The sounds from outside disappeared as they went deeper. Soon all they could hear were their own footsteps and breathing. The cave felt like another world completely separate from the surface. After an hour of climbing down through narrow passages, they began to hear something new. Soft musical sounds echoed through the tunnels ahead of them. The sounds were beautiful and gentle, like a lullaby being sung very quietly. "Those are hatchling voices," Hyunwoo whispered with excitement. "They are not distress calls. They sound content and peaceful." The team moved more carefully now. They did not want to make loud noises that might scare the babies. They followed the sound of the gentle singing through several more tunnels, until they reached a large round chamber. Dr. Jae-min was the first to look into the chamber. What he saw made him signal for the others to stop and be very quiet. He needed a moment to understand what his eyes were showing him. In the center of the cave chamber sat a young human girl. She had dark hair and was wearing simple clothes that were dirty from crawling through the caves. She looked to be about 12 years old. The 3 albino hatchlings were arranged around her like flower petals around the center of a flower. One was curled up in her lap. Another was leaning against her shoulder. The third was holding onto her arm with its tiny hands. All 4 creatures, human and alien, were completely relaxed and peaceful. The girl was humming a soft tune while the hatchlings made their musical chirping sounds. Together they created a harmony that filled the chamber with gentle music. The scene was so beautiful and unexpected that the entire search team stopped to stare. No one wanted to disturb this perfect moment of cross-species friendship. The girl looked up when she sensed they were watching. She did not look guilty or scared. Instead, she smiled at them like she had been expecting them to arrive. "Hello," she said in a calm voice. "I think you have been looking for these little ones. They are fine. I have been taking care of them." Commander Hyunwoo stepped forward slowly. His voice was full of wonder when he spoke. "Child of humanity, you have saved the future of my people. How can we ever thank you?" The girl looked down at the baby aliens in her arms. "They just needed someone to love them," she said simply. "Everyone needs that." Mira sat quietly in the cave chamber while the adults stared at her and the 3 alien babies. She could see the amazement in their faces. The big alien commander looked like he might cry. Dr. Jae-min kept shaking his head like he could not believe what he was seeing. "How long have you been coming here?" Dr. Jae-min asked, gently. He crouched down to be at the same level as Mira. He did not want to seem scary or threatening. "I found them 4 days ago," Mira answered. "But someone else was taking care of them before me. Someone had already made the soft bed and brought them food and water." Commander Hyunwoo's throat made curious fluttering sounds. Another human child was helping them. "Do you know who it was?" Mira shook her head. "I never saw them. But I could tell someone smaller than a grown-up had been here. The footprints were too small to be adult feet." She gently stroked the head of the smallest hatchling who was curled up in her lap. The tiny creature made happy purring sounds like a contented kitten. "When I found them, they were scared and hungry. The other person had not come back for 2 days. I think something happened to stop them from visiting." Dr. Jae-min activated his portable medical scanner. The device beeped softly as it examined the 3 baby aliens. The readings on the small screen made him smile with relief. "They are perfectly healthy," he announced to the team. "In fact, they show better vital signs than when they were in our controlled nursery environment. Whatever care they have been receiving, it has been exactly what they needed." Captain Minho looked around the cave chamber with professional interest. "This location is actually ideal for the hatchlings. The temperature stays constant. It is protected from weather and predators. The darkness would make them feel safe. But how did they get here? Asked Sungmin the geologist. The space station is 20 kilometers away. These babies are too young to travel that far by themselves. Mira had been wondering about the same thing. I think they left the station and someone found them. Maybe another kid who was exploring like me. That person brought them here and started taking care of them. Commander Hyunwoo knelt down beside Mira. His large alien form moved very carefully so he would not frighten the hatchlings. May I examine them? I have been very worried about their health and safety. Of course, Mira said. They know you. Watch how they react when they hear your voice. When Hyunwoo began speaking in the musical language of his people, the 3 hatchlings immediately perked up. They made excited chirping sounds and reached their tiny hands toward him. They clearly recognized him as one of their own kind. But something interesting happened when Hyunwoo tried to take one of the babies. The little creature clung tightly to Mira and made distressed crying sounds. It did not want to leave the human girl who had been caring for it. They have bonded with you, Hyunwoo said with amazement. This is very unusual. Kalari hatchlings normally only bond with their own species, but these 3 have accepted you as their caregiver. Dr. Jamin was taking detailed readings with his equipment. The stress levels in the hatchlings go up when they are separated from Mira. Their heart rates increase and their body temperature drops slightly. This suggests a deep emotional attachment. What does that mean? Mira asked. She was starting to feel worried that the adults might want to take the babies away from her. It means you have created something very special here, Hyunwoo explained. These hatchlings see you as their family. Breaking that bond could cause serious psychological damage to their development. Captain Minho was concerned about the practical problems this created. We need to think about what happens next. The girl's parents do not know where she is. The colony leaders need to be informed about this situation, and there are diplomatic issues to consider. Diplomatic issues, Mira asked. She did not understand what that meant. Dr. Jamin tried to explain in simple terms. When humans and aliens work together, there are lots of rules and agreements. Nobody planned for a human child to adopt alien babies. We need to figure out how to handle this properly. Mira looked down at the 3 tiny creatures who trusted her completely. Are you going to take them away from me? We are going to find a solution that works for everyone, Hyunwoo promised. These hatchlings are very important to my people, but their happiness and health are more important than our rules and procedures. The team spent the next hour carefully documenting everything they found in the cave. They took pictures and measurements and recorded the sounds the hatchlings made. They wanted to understand exactly how this unusual family had been created. During this time, Mira showed them how she had been caring for the babies. She had brought them fresh water from a clean stream outside the cave. She had gathered berries and edible roots that were safe for them to eat. She had even made them small toys from twigs and leaves. Where did you learn what foods they could eat? Dr. Jamin asked. I read about Kalari biology in the colony database, Mira explained. I wanted to make sure I was not giving them anything that would make them sick. This impressed all the adults. A 12-year-old girl had taught herself alien biology and successfully cared for 3 vulnerable babies for several days. She had done better than the advanced life support systems on the space station. As evening approached outside the cave, the team prepared to return to the surface. But they faced a difficult problem. The hatchlings became very upset whenever Mira moved away from them. They cried and reached for her with desperate little hands. I think I need to come with you, Mira said quietly. They are scared when I am not here. Commander Hyunwoo nodded. Yes, we will all return together. You and the hatchlings and all of us. We are a family now and families stay together. The journey back to the surface would be the beginning of a completely new chapter in human and alien relations. The trip back to the space station became a very complicated journey. Mira rode in the transport vehicle with the 3 hatchlings in her arms. Every few minutes, one of the babies would start crying and reaching for her when other people tried to hold them. The little creatures only felt safe when they were touching Mira. Commander Hyunwoo sat across from them watching everything with fascination. In all his years of studying Kalari development, he had never seen hatchlings form such a strong bond with another species. It was like watching a miracle happen right in front of his eyes. This will create many problems, Captain Minho said quietly to Dr. Jamin. The Colony Council will need to approve any changes to our living arrangements, and we need to contact Mira's parents immediately. Dr. Jamin nodded, but he was more excited than worried. This could also create amazing opportunities. Think about what we could learn from studying this cross-species relationship. These hatchlings might develop differently because of their human contact. Mira listened to the adults talking, but she was more focused on the babies in her care. The smallest one that she had started calling Little Star was making soft whistling sounds. She had learned that this meant it was getting hungry. They need to eat soon, Mira told the adults. Little Star always gets cranky when it's mealtime. Commander Hyunwoo was surprised. You have given them names. Of course, Mira said like it was obvious. The smallest one is Little Star because its skin glows in the dark. The middle one is Bubble because it likes to make popping sounds with its mouth. The biggest one is Whisper because it makes the softest chirping sounds. The fact that she had named them made the situation even more complicated. In Kalari culture, giving a name to a hatchling was something only family members could do. But none of the adults wanted to tell Mira that she had done something wrong. When they arrived at the space station, word had already spread about the discovery. Crowds of humans in Kalari were waiting at the landing pad. Everyone wanted to see the missing hatchlings and the human girl who had saved them. Mira felt nervous when she saw all the people watching her. She had never been the center of attention like this before. The three babies seemed to sense her worry and pressed closer to her body for comfort. Stay calm, Dr. Jamin whispered to her. Just walk normally and don't let go of the hatchlings. We will get you somewhere quiet as soon as possible. As they walked through the crowds, Mira could hear people talking in excited voices. Some were speaking human languages and others were using the musical tones of Kalari speech. She caught pieces of conversations about the amazing discovery and the brave little girl. But there were also worried voices. Some people were asking questions about safety and proper procedures. Others wondered if it was wise to let a human child care for such important alien babies. Commander Hyunwoo's assistant Tae-young met them at the entrance to the living quarters. His scales were flashing bright yellow, which Mira had learned meant he was very excited. The High Council wants to speak with you immediately, Tae-young told Hyunwoo. They have been in emergency session for 3 hours discussing this situation. What are they saying? Hyunwoo asked. Some council members think the hatchlings should be returned to the nursery habitat immediately. They believe human contact might interfere with normal Kalari development. Others are arguing that separating them from the human child could cause serious trauma. Dr. Jamin frowned. What about Mira's parents? Have they been contacted? They are flying here from the outer research station, Tae-young replied. They should arrive within 2 hours. The colony administrator wants to meet with everyone before any decisions are made. Mira was beginning to understand that her simple act of caring for 3 lost babies had created a very big problem for a lot of important people. She looked down at Little Star, Bubble, and Whisper, who were sleeping peacefully in her arms. I don't understand why everyone is so worried, she said. The babies are healthy and happy. Isn't that what matters most? Commander Hyunwoo stopped walking and knelt down to her level. You are absolutely right. That is what matters most, but sometimes adults make things more complicated than they need to be. They were taken to a comfortable room in the residential section of the station. It had soft furniture and big windows that looked out at the planet below. Dr. Jamin arranged for food and water to be brought for both Mira and the hatchlings while they waited for the various meetings and discussions to happen. Mira continued, caring for the babies just like she had in the cave. She fed them small pieces of fruit and gave them water from a special cup that Dr. Jamin had designed for their tiny mouths. The hatchlings were fascinated by their new surroundings. They crawled around the room exploring everything with their curious little hands. But they always stayed close to Mira and ran back to her whenever something startled them. Dr. Jamin spent the time documenting their behavior with his recording equipment. This is remarkable, he told Mira. The hatchlings are showing advanced problem-solving skills and social awareness. I think their contact with human intelligence might be accelerating their development. They were always smart, Mira replied. You just have to pay attention to understand what they are trying to tell you. As the afternoon passed, more people came to observe the unusual family. Scientists took measurements and asked questions. Colony officials discussed policies and procedures. Kalari elders examined the hatchlings and debated tradition versus innovation. Through it all, Mira remained calm and focused on what the babies needed. She ignored the complicated adult conversations and concentrated on the simple truth that had brought them all together. 3 little creatures had needed help, and she had given it to them. When her parents finally arrived, Mira could see the mixture of pride and worry in their faces. They hugged her tightly and asked if she was okay. Then they sat down to hear the whole amazing story of how their daughter had saved 3 alien lives and possibly change the future of two species forever. 6 months later, the space station had become a completely different place. What started as a simple research facility was now the most famous location in the galaxy. Scientists and diplomats from dozens of worlds came to study what everyone called the Kepler miracle. Mira walked through the expanded nursery facility carrying little Star on her shoulder. The tiny hatchling had grown bigger but still loved to ride around and watch everything from up high. Bubble and Whisper followed behind her, making happy chirping sounds as they explored their much larger home. The 3 babies were no longer white and translucent. As they grew, their skin had developed beautiful patterns of silver and pale blue. Dr. Jamin said this was because of their unique upbringing with humans. They were becoming something new and wonderful that had never existed before. Commander Hyunwoo found them in the observation lounge where Mira liked to sit and watch the sunset. The big alien had become like a grandfather to the growing hatchlings. They climbed all over his scaled arms and made him laugh with their playful antics. The first group of human families arrives tomorrow, Hyunwoo told Mira as he settled into the specially designed furniture that could hold both human and Kalari bodies. 17 families have volunteered to be part of the new program. Mira smiled as she watched Bubble trying to catch the light patterns on the wall. I think the babies will love having more friends. And maybe some of the other kids will want to learn how to take care of hatchlings too. The decision to expand the program had not been easy. For weeks after Mira's discovery, the adults had argued about what to do. Some people thought it was too dangerous to let human children care for alien babies. Others worried about breaking traditional ways of raising Kalari young. But the results spoke for themselves. Little Star, Bubble, and Whisper were healthier and smarter than any hatchlings in Kalari history. They had learned to communicate using both human gestures and Kalari sounds. They solved problems faster than adult Kalari scientists expected. Most importantly, they were happy. Dr. Jamin had spent months documenting their development. His research papers were being read by xenobiologists across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to understand how cross-species relationships could benefit both humans and aliens. There is other news, Hyunwoo continued. The Kalari High Council has officially approved the establishment of permanent mixed families. Human children who want to adopt Kalari hatchlings will be allowed to do so with proper training and support. This was the most important decision of all. It meant that what Mira had started could continue and grow. Other human children would have the chance to form the same special bonds that she had created with her 3 alien babies. Mira's parents had been worried at first. They thought their daughter was too young for such a big responsibility. But when they saw how well she cared for the hatchlings and how much the babies loved her, they became her strongest supporters. Her mother Jong-soo had even quit her engineering job to help run the new family program. Her father Dong-woo had designed special living spaces that worked for both human and Kalari families. They were proud of their daughter who had changed the galaxy just by being kind. The 3 hatchlings had names in both languages now. Little Star was also called Bin, which meant Shining One in Kalari. Bubble became Taewoo, which meant Joyful Song. Whisper was known as Sungho, which meant Gentle Spirit. As the 2 suns set behind the mountains, Mira gathered her 3 charges for their evening routine. They still loved to curl up together just like they had in the cave where she first found them. But now they had soft beds and warm blankets and all the food they could eat. Tell us the story again, Bin said in his tiny voice that mixed human words with Kalari music. Tell us about the cave and how you found us. Mira settled into the comfortable chair with all 3 babies arranged around her. This had become their favorite bedtime tradition. Once upon a time, there were 3 little aliens who got lost and scared. They found a safe cave to hide in, but they were still lonely and hungry. And then you came, Taewoo added excitedly. He already knew the story by heart, but he loved hearing it again. And then I came, Mira continued. I heard beautiful singing coming from deep in the mountain. I followed the sounds until I found 3 precious babies who needed someone to love them. Sungho made soft purring sounds as he snuggled closer to Mira. And you loved us and took care of us and made us safe. That's right, Mira said gently, and now we are a family forever. Through the observation lounge windows, the lights of both human and Kalari homes twinkled across the valley. The 2 species that had once been strangers were now neighbors and friends. Children played together in mixed groups. Adults worked side by side on projects that benefited everyone. Commander Hyunwoo watched the peaceful scene with deep satisfaction. His people's future was secure now. The genetic diversity they had lost on their homeworld was being restored through these special cross-species relationships. But more than that, they had learned something precious about the nature of family and love. Dr. Jamin often said that the 3 hatchlings had saved more than just the Kalari species. They had shown the galaxy that differences between species were not barriers to overcome, but gifts to be celebrated. As night fell over the space station, the sound of interspecies lullabies drifted through the corridors, human voices mixed with Kalari harmonies singing songs of hope and friendship. The miracle that started with 1 lost girl and 3 scared babies had grown into something that would last for generations. Mira held her sleeping family close and whispered a promise into the starlit darkness. "We will always take care of each other, always and forever." The albino hatchlings were no longer lost or alone. They had found something better than survival. They had found home.